This allows the market to control how quickly we transition to greener technologies, rewarding the innovative companies and punishing the non-compliant companies. One of the benefits of this type of legislation is economically. It allows companies the opportunity to reinvest in themselves, and going green will require new technology. New technology requires the creation of new jobs here in the United States. The program is also broad in the beginning, allowing greater time for companies to adjust their pace rather than forcing a cap all at once. A rising cost is inevitable in any industry, but a broad approach like this allows time for the cost to stabilize without hurting the consumer too much. The Atlantic recently found that companies in favor of cap and trade legislation include Nike, Starbucks, Levi Strauss, Sun Microsystems, ConocoPhillips, Ford, GM, Johnson & Johnson, Pepsi, Shell, Siemens, Xerox, NRG Energy, DuPont, Duke Energy, and GE. So it is something that big businesses are interested in because they realize that this is beneficial to them as well as beneficial to the mass number of consumers they have. You'll also see direct health benefits. Less pollution results in a healthier society. The EPA has found that human exposure to pollutants is known to cause bronchitis, asthma, cardiac conditions, as well as respiratory disease. Reduction in pollution will alleviate these health conditions, and a healthier society results in a more robust workforce. Stanford has found that trade also opens the door to transition into more renewable energy programs, such as geothermal policy. It provides initiative to be innovative. In the past 20 years, we have seen 3 various forms of cap and trade legislation implemented here in the U.S. and abroad. These programs have been widely successful. The first of these programs was in 1995, when the EPA introduced the cap and trade legislation that sought to address the acid rain problem. The legislation put a cap on the amount of sulfur dioxide emitted. The companies had to cap their emissions to 9.5 million tons by 2000. The EPA issued a plan a certain number of credits or allowances equal to 1 ton of SO2 emissions. At the end of the year, if they were under their emissions, they were allowed to sell off their additional allowances. This gave financial incentive to companies to become greener and reduce SO2 emissions. The program has been successful. In the 1980s, SO2 emissions were at 17.3 million tons. As of 2010, they were at 8.95 million tons. The second program is the Union's emission trading. Initially, it stumbled and hurt consumers in the beginning because it was handled incorrectly. But Europe's program allowed time for policymakers to pause and reevaluate and see if they needed to fix. They addressed all the issues that they had in the beginning, and it has since been successful. Carbon emissions in Europe have been reduced by 50 to 100 million tons since 2005. This results in about 2 to 5%.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right. Sorry, this was short.
Yeah, I've got some questions for you.
Okay.
First of all, you talk about the targeted reductions, like 2020, like 20%, 42%. Where are they coming up with these numbers? Like, what kind of analysis goes into figuring out what amount of reduction is feasible? Is there any account going into this as to what the economic situation is going to be, as to what the demand for power is, as to what the efficiency of these alternative power productions are? Or is it just, we're going to cut carbon by 80% by the year 2030, even if there's no other methods to replace that energy?
Well, it's set on the timeline, so that way they can take time to reevaluate and see if these caps are too broad or too small. And one of the goals that we're proposing and that they believe in, that's what I'm talking now, is that the companies need to come up with these caps and the companies need to agree on what would be feasible for them. But the waxing market kind of gives a suggestion, and it's taken out over 10 years. That way they can have time to pause and evaluate and see what is 20% feasible by 2020, is 42% feasible by 2030, and then 83%.
Yeah, but this legislation is not proposing that businesses decide how much they're going to cap. It's the government placing a restriction on the business and forcing them to pay. It's not saying, hey, businesses go out and decide to reduce. That's what businesses do on their own just to cut costs. That's okay. Another question I have is about, you talk about renewable energy, is going to create new jobs in the United States. The problem is that when you replace conventional methods of energy production with renewable methods, you may be creating a job for someone who
Greenhouse Initiative, or RGGI, that included the 9 northeastern states. Analysis group, a nonpartisan organization, analyzed that particular economy because it included the 9 northeastern states and Canada after it went into effect. And one of the things they found is that 16,000 jobs were created. And they also found that because of the renewable energy, the less reliance on fossil fuels, they were able to keep 765 million in the local economy. And when we can keep money in our local economy and create new jobs, we can also reinvest in our companies. We can create training for programs for employees who maybe did work for a coal mine or other technologies that we no longer need, so they can learn new technologies.
Companies that you mentioned that were in support of building this cap and trade system,
Yes.
where do they produce their products at? Like Nike, for example, I know they produce many of their products overseas in other countries like China. So if we're putting a cap and trade here, yeah, they can be supported, but they're not producing the products here, they're producing it in another place. So it doesn't really affect them.
Well, not all the companies produce their stuff overseas, and they do produce stuff over here. And I mean, maybe if they had a way of making money to be able to invest in it on the way home, they would bring more jobs back home.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for coming out again. My name is Zach, this is Peter, and we are against cap and trade. It is clear that global pollution is a serious challenge facing the world today. Many are concerned about the issue and dedicated to addressing it. The key is to ensure that we address the issue properly in a comprehensive and effective manner that will not burden the population, reduce availability of energy, or destroy jobs. We must ensure that the pollution is reduced in a worldwide manner, attacking the issue from both the energy production side and the energy consumption side. The general idea of cap and trade is setting a mandatory cap on emissions and charging for carbon permits, and ultimately, this results in taxes on carbon-emitting firms. These taxes, along with other taxpayer funds, are then used to subsidize other energy methods, such as wind and solar, that the government currently favors. In essence, the government is discriminating against firms. By charging carbon-emitting firms for their type of production method, and not charging their competitors that produce the same product, the government is in violation of the same competition laws found in the Sherman Antitrust Act and the Clayton Act that have been so important to stable economic growth since the beginning of the 20th century. Right now, the government is trying to increase the use of wind and solar, not by reducing their costs or increasing efficiency, but instead forcing the price of conventional methods to rise. Bankrupt companies like Solyndra, Ener1, Abound Solar, A123 Systems, and Compact Power, they all cost taxpayers $2.9 billion. This reveals that the careless nature in which the government distributes subsidies. Another issue with this type of government involvement is cronyism, nepotism, and favoritism. Ulterior motives have always been an issue for those passing legislation. Anytime government officials are given the ability to subsidize private companies, we see them earmarking funds for their own states or for their own supporters. Harry Reid, who's a strong supporter of cap and trade legislation, proudly boasts on his website of the billions in grants, subsidies, tax credits, and loan guarantees that he has secured for Nevada, his home state, through the American Investment and Recovery Act. The government has no business getting involved in the private market in this way, with the ability to punish or reward firms for their choosing based on who's in power or during a certain congressional session. Cap and trade schemes are also uneconomical. By raising the cost of producing energy, a cap and trade system drives up the energy cost for everyone. This cost will be hit the population unevenly, with low-income families and families living in states that get most of their energy from coal hit the hardest. According to AmericasPower.org, families earning less than $50,000 a year spend 17% of their disposable income on energy. Families earning less than $30,000 spend 24%, and families earning less than $10,000 a year spend 78% of their disposable income on energy. According to the Congressional Budget Office, a 15% reduction in carbon would cause a 3.3% increase in costs for lower-income families. In addition, middle-income families would see their income decrease by 2.7 to 2.9%, but the wealthiest would only see an increase of about 1.7%. Supporters of cap and trade like to claim that low-income families would not see cost increases because they would be subsidized. However, that only pushes the cost someone else in the form of taxes. In addition, coal provides half of the energy the United States use, particularly in states in the Midwest and Plains. Information from the World Resource Institute shows that states such as Ohio, Indiana, Wyoming, New Mexico, and West Virginia that get over 80% of their power from coal are going to feel very inequitable impact from taxing carbon emissions. It is important here to note that Barbara Broxer, Henry Waxman, and Ed Markey, who wrote the bill for cap and trade, are from California or the Northeast, states that use less than 15 tons of carbon per capita for energy, meaning they will feel the least amount of cost from such a system. Thank you. Yeah.
You said states that use half the coal production, like West Virginia, Ohio, said that they would feel inequitable tax on carbon emissions. There's a big difference between a carbon tax and a cap and trade system. You know clearly well that a tax fluctuates and is easier through economic depressions, fluctuate and expansions, but as well as that it's not set as much as cap and trade, because cap and trade is a law.
Yeah. Companies firms would have to buy permits, right, to do their excess, the pollution that's not covered. But that's another term for a tax. They have to buy something to be able to do that. That's a tax.
Something that they compromise with the government on, like we advocated in our speech.
What companies?
We said that by sector approach, where companies collectively come together in one sector.
You also mentioned companies that don't produce in the United States, so yeah, they're for that.
Well, Nike is just one of them. When you look at Levi Strauss, they have many companies in California, factories in California and North Carolina.
Do they also have companies in China that produce many of their?
Well, yeah, but you know really well the United States is a big time country. If we see that we're fighting for green legislation, then therefore it'll act for it'll induce other countries to try to implement cost-effective green
It's
policy.
good to know that the cap and trade system evidently wasn't passed, so there wasn't enough support by enough companies, firms, or congressmen or women to pass the bill.
Well, I'm sure you know by now that the U.S. Climate Action Partnership, which these companies are part of in the Chamber of Commerce, like we said, Shell, Ford, GE, Xerox, all part of the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce wouldn't allow them to be vocal about their stance, and so they threatened to withhold their dues from the Chamber of Commerce because the Chamber of Commerce was being intransigent. So do you really think that these companies do not advocate for green energy policy?
They might advocate for it, but once if cap and trade were to put in place, wouldn't it be creating another incentive for companies to pack up, leave here, and go to another place where there are less harsh standards that are placed on these firms as far as emitting? Wouldn't that increase their production in another place and just increase the amount of emissions given globally? I mean, emissions don't know a boundary. Obviously, when it's emitted here, it's going to travel everywhere. So China emits, it's going to be felt here too. It's a global impact. It's not just the United States, and we have to see that. We're fighting an issue here that's not yet feasible because we don't have renewable energy that is cost effective, and so nobody else is going to follow suit.
So you're basically just saying kick the can down the road when we actually have the availability to invest. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ronnie Cloje, and I'm here to give a rebuttal in favor of cap and trade. Our opponents continue to argue that it isn't effectively a tax on companies. I just like to again point out that I really want to see how a tax, after it's compromised between companies in the sector with the government on a friendly approach to come at certain intervals to reduce energy, rather fossil fuel emissions that they feel can be applicable in a time period. How effectively is that a tax if they're agreeing to a feasible investment in the future that they can all agree on in each sector? As I would like to point out, the definition of a carbon tax is a direct assessment by the government for products with fossil fuels in them. So basically, whenever people would consume something, they would be taxed for using fossil fuels. The only thing beneficial about a carbon tax for my colleagues across the aisle is that you, for its simplicity, is that you only pay for each time you emit. And the last time I checked, as I've stated before, taxes fluctuate not only due to automatic stabilization due to the business cycle, but as well as oppositional lobby and loophole volatility. So the carbon tax is ineffective when it comes to reducing fossil fuels because it's unpredictable. Cap and trade, however, is effective because the energy sector is compromising the government on sufficient levels to reduce carbon emissions. And if they don't meet them, after they set them on a compromised level, they have to face a penalty. And that penalty goes to looking for research for better investment in renewable energy. It's consistent because it's set in law, and it's not tax policy, so it's stable. Defending cap and trade as market-based midstream regulation, where the producers of the energy where the producers of energy are assessed these limits. The Climate Action Partnership Agreement, again, these companies that we've stated before have stated in an agreement that we believe the most powerful controlled cost measure is a robust cap and trade, since markets do the best job of controlling costs over time. And because of this, cap and trade in the preliminary stages, it gives companies the incentive of investing now in future technology and efficient green energy. For justifying the allowance allocation system in cap and trade, the government can fight backloading or the market instability of prices of carbon when these reductions go in place by backloading, a special clause in legislation. And that occurs when energy consumption goes down in an economic recession, as is the case in Europe now. And my friends across the aisle were arguing that the European system was ineffective because of this price instability. So being able to reduce the price volatility while rebalancing supply and demand for these allowances is what backloading will do if the bill is carefully worded. They also talk about how subsidies for green energy is massive compared to fossil fuel emitting type of in the same fiscal year, renewable energy companies get 1.313 billion in taxpayer subsidies, wind with 476 million to 4.98 billion in subsidies, compared to coal, which saw 943 million to 1.4 billion in subsidies. So I thank you very much.
Well, Peter, thanks for having me. First of all, I'd like to just mention that we didn't say anything about subsidies versus cleaner or conventional methods of production. We're against government subsidies for any method of energy production. Anyway, aside from the fact that cap and trade epitomizes inappropriate government involvement in a free market, it will also damage that same market. Zach already spoke of how lower income families will be hit harder by a cap and trade scheme that increases energy costs, but there's more to it than that. It's important to realize that this will not only raise electricity bills, but will also drive up the price of most commodities and services. Cap and trade will make energy more expensive for businesses as well. Energy costs are an overhead for almost all firms, and when that cost increases, products and services that they produce are going to cost more as well. Basically, if a car manufacturer has to pay more electricity per trade hinders firms and stunts economic growth. Firms will be forced to lay off workers or even worse, fire employees because of rising costs. This is not the time to be raising costs. At a time when unemployment in the United States is much too high and is recognized as a very serious problem facing our economy, why would we want to reduce employment even further by forcing firms to fire hard-working employees? According to the Coalition for Affordable American Energy, a cap and trade system would cost Americans 800,000 jobs by 2015 and 1.9 million jobs by 2020. Some nations have already tried cap and trade. Our opponents like to say that the European model has been successful. It has absolutely not been successful. The amount of carbon emissions in Europe went up by 1.9% for the 3 years following the implementation of their cap and trade system. Emissions finally went down as the global recession hit, but this, of course, was not due to a successful cap and trade system, but due to a sharp decrease in disposable spending for consumers, and therefore a sharp decrease in consumption and production. Europe also experienced higher unemployment and energy costs. According to the Institute for Energy Research, the cost of electricity in Germany is 3 times that of the United States. Germans pay 35 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity compared to Americans only paying 11 cents per kilowatt. This is because of a 25-cent solar feed-in tariff that Germany has as a part of their cap and trade subsidy program. Spain was hit harder, losing 2.2 jobs for every green job created, and with over $40 billion in wind and solar debt, Spain has had to place a moratorium on all renewable spending in their country. There is also a fundamental danger associated with creating an industry that may struggle to survive without government subsidies. When a company depends on government subsidies to survive, what's going to happen when those subsidies go away? Germany, Spain, England, Italy, and other European countries are all either stopping, reducing, or capping their subsidies because the cost for consumers and the government is too high. When an economy is in a downturn, the government cannot afford to continue feeding money into an inefficient system. It is a truism that when the cost of doing business in the United States goes up, businesses will tend to move their operations elsewhere. With China already providing a safe haven for American companies seeking protection from high employment costs in the United States, their fossil fuel-friendly policies would easily attract many American companies if the United States imposed a cap-and-trade system. Aside from China, many Latin American countries have lenient energy policies as well. This is dangerous because we do not want companies moving to sensitive or volatile ecosystems such as rainforests that we have in South America. In addition, by moving to countries with little or no pollution regulations, companies that currently operate in the U.S. and follow U.S. regulations would be able to pollute more in other countries, thereby causing more global pollution and having the exact opposite impact of what is the intended effect. The basic facts are that renewable wind and solar are not efficient enough to power the U.S., let alone the world. According to the Annenberg Public Policy Center, just to produce 20% of the energy in the United States would take 250,000 2-megawatt wind turbines with a total cost of over $1 trillion. The proper way to reduce carbon emissions is to pursue efficient and effective renewable energy resources. Forcing the installation of wind turbines and solar panels that are just going to have to be replaced later is not the effective way to do this. Cap and trade is a short-sighted policy that puts the cart before the horse, forcing a technology that is not ready for implementation. The government should be funding research and providing incentives to go green, not providing a penalty for failing to do so. Thank you.
Got one last round of questions then before she gets to leave the class and pull it in.
I've got a question for you guys. Over and over again talk about how the cap and trade is not a tax. Calling it a carbon tax is just a euphemism. Essentially, you're talking about companies coming together, deciding to voluntarily cut emissions, and then having to pay a penalty if they go over that, and then using the money that they pay in penalties to directly fund competitors, which is something that companies have been prosecuted for by the Supreme Court time and time again because it's hindering competition.
As we said before, you don't compromise on a tax level, you compromise on a group level of sector by sector energy reduction. How can you say that after a compromise that they're being taxed?
No, you're going after semantics. Quit calling. Don't worry about it being called a tax. That's just a euphemism. If you call it a penalty, if you call it a permit fee, regardless, you're making these companies pay more to use a different type of production than another company producing the exact same product.
As we've said before, it's what you're saying is that they don't have the business motive, or that they're being hurt by something that they are going to compromise with the government for?
No, exactly. You're talking about businesses doing something on their own. Where is the legislation involved in that?
And we said in our argument that our proposed cap and trade, we would have a sector-by-sector approach where companies collectively come together as a sector and compromise on a percentage in each time interval to effectively reduce carbon towards a specific percentage that they agree on. And as we said before, the allowances were allocated by the government. They were not auctioned. Therefore, energy companies could effectively, with that compromise, work together to at least stabilize price reductions, and as well as invest in capital for the future. You guys said that the energy production in the United States would not be compatible enough with renewable energy. According to MIT, with geothermal energy, we could make 2.192 billion, megawatts of geothermal energy, which is the same energy level of the 2005 consumption in the United States. So, do you still think that with a cap and trade system, as a transitionary system, that this geothermal energy, if we're cutting back to the 1990 level in 10 years, is incapable of providing for energy output in the United States?
Do you know how much energy in the United States is coming from geothermal right now?
As we've said before,
Less than 1%. Less than 1%. So, if this technology is so great, why isn't it being used?
because it's barely been invested in compared to subsidies that oil has in producing their costs.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be subsidizing anything.
So-
There's enough.
so-
If technology is good, there's
You wanna
enough.
talk about subsidizing
Listen, there is enough private investment. In the United States, there's over $50 billion in private investment going to renewable energy sources. The government doesn't need to be picking and choosing which industries, let alone which companies, it's going to be giving money to.
Is that why they want to, right now they have energy across the board where they're subsidizing in big oil, in solar, wind, and geothermal
Yeah,
energy?
we don't agree with any subsidizing.
Okay then, well then why are you arguing that government should pick and choose about
I'm
what?
saying that they shouldn't.
There'll be more of these to come. So please come see the debates in the future as we explore the spring semester. We have some great topic ideas for you. Please come back. Thank you so much. Have a great day.